Hey folks, this is Engineer 775 at a little different venue. This is Komatsu Corporation. We're doing a solar water pumping irrigation project for them. And we brought in the big guns. Got Brian helping us with setting these tanks today. I requested a 10,000 pound machine. Well, we got the beast. Got a big Komatsu and they gave us a little one as well. So we'll use this guy for trenching. And so what we're doing is solar water pumping. My solar system, top of pole mount, about 2,400 watts of solar is going to go here. And we're going to pump water out of the well that's in front of the machine with solar to put about 6,000 gallons in these tanks. From those tanks, we will irrigate. They irrigate between 4 and 6 in the morning, the front of this plant. And this is our tie-in here, which goes over across the parking lot there. So we're going to run a 2-inch pipe inside this sleeve and then head up here and tie into my concoction of a water system. So it's a little bit bigger than normal. So this is day one. Probably got about 5-6 days here at Komatsu, and we'll keep you informed.
Yeah, but it's up.
Engineer 775 just getting set up on the job. We've got 2 Komatsu excavators today. We're going to move some dirt. This is a little bit bigger than what we needed, but it should take no time. We're going to be burying these 1,600 gallon, 1,500 gallon bruiser tanks in this area.
Yeah, just put it through there and put the power through it now.
And we're going to be solar water pumping with a solar pico cell 3-phase pump and blender. I mean, it's a inverter, not the blender. So we'll be pumping out of this well to fill these tanks, and then we'll be putting a pump inside one of the tanks to supply their irrigation system, which is, I'm over here by the guard shack. You can't really see Komatsu Corporation here in Newberry, South Carolina, but they assembled giant wheel loader excavators here, and they have a very nice front entrance. They wanted to do a little solar water project, and so that's what we're doing.
Let me get out of there for you. We'll be right back. Keep him on grade.
This is a good thing they brought the big machine.
Oh, it'd have been quite a time digging us all. You'd have used all 2 days, I bet.
Abraham's taking a turn. We're going in with tank number 2. All right, the end of day one. Got our tanks manifolded together for filling on the low end, and we have our tanks manifold together for venting as we pump water out of these. The very first tank down there will be where we put our pump in and our float switch, and then we can backfill this whole area hopefully tomorrow. The best $80 you will ever spend is on one of these shade devices, tents, and we're mixing mud. We wait till it's at least 97 degrees and then we start mixing by hand because we're not too smart. Sometimes it's just, instead of trying to get a mixer and playing around, we just do it. We can stick 2 pallets of 42 bags of Quikrete on the old Ford and get it in there. So we're putting 36 bags in here, I think. So, all right, enough filming break.
It's gonna be done very tough.
As Abraham says, what'd you say, boss?
It's gonna be done. Better be tough.
Okay, the next day, day 3, we're about to install a Pentair pump with a Pentair motor. This is a 30 gallon a minute pump, and we're going to put it with the Pico cell. So we're converting DC. Our pole is over here, and we're running, and the inverter, the Pico cell, will convert the solar DC into 3-phase AC power to run this pump. And this is a standard pump, not special in any way, other than it's good quality pump, and but it's a standard 3-phase submersible well pump, and we're able to take solar and directly convert it to run this pump. It makes it soft start, and it's basically a variable frequency drive, and so that allows us to take a relatively inexpensive pump. I mean, this pump is like $900, I think, $1,000, and so it's a little bit cheaper than doing it's comparable to doing a Grundfos SQ Flex series pump. And so this is our second Pico cell installation. We're about to put it into this well. This well is producing 100 gallons a minute. It's 380 foot deep. It has a static water level of about 60 feet. And the goal is to fill the 4 cisterns that are buried in this location. And there'll be a float switch in the back of this one to control the water level, turn the pump on and off. And then we'll be pumping, and then we got to build another pump, a regular Franklin 60 gallon a minute pump to pump to their irrigation system, master shutoff, pressure switch controls, and then there'll be deluxe control boxes and pump techs here for low water protection. And we have a buried bladder tank here, working with a pressure switch. And so that's our little well situation there, and then we'll cover it up. And that'll be phase 1 of this project, so all the underground work will be done by the time we get out of here today. The electricians just ran us power out to this pole, so we'll be able to power the pump that goes in the tank, and we'll be able to irrigate the nice lawn that you see out there. This is a different project, solar water irrigation. They have a very nice front entrance to their plant, which is over there. You can't see it, but we'll be supplying water from this well instead of city water for all they got koi ponds and flowers and things. So a little different project for us. And you kind of see the Komatsu operation. They make wheel loaders and forklifts here at the Newberry plant in Newberry, South Carolina. It's really warm down here. Engineer 775, Saturday afternoon. Gotta hit the shop. Got my helper today. Awesome helper. What are we doing, Elijah?
We are installing a flow sleeve on this Grundfos.
We're making a flow sleeve for this pump. Don't say Grundfos, it's a Franklin. We'll get in trouble. I'm just kidding. So this is a 60 gallon a minute pump, and it's a heavy duty, seriously heavy motor, isn't it? And this is going to be laying in a cistern. It's going to work for about 2 hours a day. It's going to work pretty hard, so we want to make sure the water from the cistern flows along the motor. Okay, so we're allowing the water to come in here, and we've modified, it's just a 4-inch casing that we cut, and yeah, don't kill it. And even if a little bit of water gets in there where Elijah is, it's fine. So we just cut some gaps in the PVC and made a wider gap around the wire guard. but we tried to center the motor in the pipe. And the way we did that, Elijah did a little tapping today using some quarter 20 tap, and we basically centered that motor inside the flow sleeve. So it's just a piece of pipe, and then when we get in the cistern, we just label it so we make sure when we do set it that it's going to be sitting there. Obviously there'll be plumbing that is offset, so there won't be any torque. It won't really be able to turn, so we'll be good there. So my main thing was keep this motor cool. She's going to work hard for 2 hours. We are going to lay it relatively flat, and I did check with the Franklin Tech on that, and that was okay based on our cycle time. So all right, we are good. That's a good little project for Saturday. Get this thing ready. This is going to Komatsu, and so like I said, we took that casing, took the bandsaw and cut out a chunk for this wire guard, and just clamped it down. It's not going to be sitting vertical, so it didn't really need to be clamped a lot. And if some water gets in here and goes down to the intake, that's not an issue. But we want most of the water to be forced by the motor, and that way it has no choice but to stay cool when it's pumping. If you just put it in a big body of water, the motor will heat that water up around the motor, and that water's not moving, and it'll overheat, and will have a tendency to overheat. So the cooler the motor stays, the longer it stays cool, the longer it lasts. So we just made a really inexpensive flow sleeve with a couple of hose clamps, and now we're going to work on the pump controllers that we need. We're just getting prepped for the job. A lot of time is spent, well, the more time that is spent in here prepping and not out in the 100-degree sun, the better the system goes together. Hey, watch your step down there. Abe, what's going on?
Just checking out the internals of a blue tank.
Blue Bruiser?
Blue Bruiser.
He just has to get inside everything.
So fascinating. It's like being in the womb.
I'm gonna I'm gonna start calling you the Jonah.
Jonah.
You're in the belly of the blue whale. All right.
Days.
He's got a head wound too. This is a remake of Master and Commander here. I'm gonna hand him our beast of a pump here, and we are about to connect it to a couple of controllers that I wanted to talk to you about. I've got the covers off of them. The one on the left is the Franklin Control Box Deluxe, and what makes it deluxe, it has a heavy-duty contactor in it, and because it's a 3 horsepower pump, the standard pressure switches for controlling pumps are not rated for, I think, anything beyond 2 horsepower, but we needed 3 horsepower to handle the irrigation project here. So heavy-duty contactor, and that needs to be controlled, and we're controlling it with a pressure switch that we have in the ground over here. Standard Schneider square D pressure switch. Make sure you wire your 2 wires on the side. You got to make sure that when the contact's open that you don't wire that up like a regular pump. So check your continuity, make sure you have it. We have a buried bladder tank over here that's tied in with the system. And our main concern here was if we didn't have enough water in the cistern, we wanted to shut this pump off. And to do that, to protect it electrically, we're using a Pump Tech Plus, and that's this controller on the right. So what the Pump Tech Plus does, it detects overload and underload, or overcurrent and undercurrent cases by plus or minus 25% of the operating power. And so this thing has to be calibrated for the job that you're working on. So anyway, we're about to go through the calibration procedure, which is pretty straightforward. I've not done one of these before, so we'll see how it goes. But we are set up to pump 60 gallons a minute to an irrigation system here at Komatsu Corporation in Newberry, South Carolina. And in order to do that, I wanted to make sure I did not ever damage the pump, and this is the baby that's going to keep us from ruining the pump. So the wiring is fairly simple. We have out there on the pole, we have single phase 40 amp breaker coming in, number 8 wire. We have number 8 wire the entire way on this one. You can see the power's coming in here on L1, L2. Let me see if you can see that on the left, and then out to the M1, M2 is actually a jumper over to the L1, L2 on the deluxe controller. And then you have your SW, which is your switch wire, and the way this switch wire is from that pressure switch is one leg there and one leg doubled up on L2. And then you have your standard motor leads, yellow, black, and red, and then all your ground terminals. And so these two work together to protect that pump. So we'll be starting this thing up and calibrating it. It has a whole calibration procedure based on the colors of these LED lights. And their buttons are on the bottom that you have to push to do the reset. I don't know if you can see them there, and there's resets here too. So a lot of protection built in, so we don't want to have to pull this pump out. Right now we're filling this cistern. We just turned on our solar pump, so we're pumping out of a pump in the well, and that's running right now. You can see the condensate on the cap. It's nice and cold, so we just turned that on, so it's filling the tanks. And then every day in the morning they'll use the water from the cisterns to irrigate the front of the plant. And so we got some cleanup here to do and put the covers back on. The wiring diagrams are given for each controller, but they really don't show exactly how to hook up the two together. The Pump Tech manual is a little more clear on that. So I think that's it. And again, we use number 8 wire all the way through, so we have a 40 amp breaker protecting everything. And you can see the startup capacitor and the run capacitor in the control box. And this again is the Plus, Pump Tech Plus, and the Control Box Deluxe. How's that for some output? That's some serious water. That is a 4-inch pipe, by the way. And we got a flow meter in here, another irrigation box. And she is just cranking away. Look at that. 280 gallons, almost 300 gallons, 400 gallons, sorry. Going for 400 gallons we've just pumped in a very short period of time. Woo! Go Franklin. We just got this rigged up to do some testing. So we're gonna water that area here shortly. And we're just testing to see when the float switch comes back on. Just cranking away. Pretty soon we're gonna flood the yard here. So we calibrated the Pump Tech. It's got a pretty good hum to it. I didn't think it would hum like that, but it is. And we're dropping pretty good. Float switch, we should be close to coming on.
Okay, I'll go watch.
Close to turning on the pico cell to refill. Yeah, as soon as it toggles, it'll go off. It'll start pumping. So we had a little problem with compaction, this vent. So we dug it all back up, which is fun, to re-level it. So I make sure I do not implode my other 1, 2, 3 1,600 gallon tanks and the 4 here. So we're doing good. Did it toggle yet? Let's see how low this pumps before that toggles. Sounds good, pumping good. That is moving. I've never pumped this much water. I'm about to flood the... Uh-oh, it's flooding out in the yard. All right, we better shut her off. That's a pretty good test. We're about to make some serious mud here. So we've pumped 500 gallons. Okay, so we're calibrated at full bore, so hopefully that'll work for the irrigation system. We're about to find out. We're going for 600 gallons. 600 gallons Gosh, I think we did 100 gallons a minute maybe? No, that's a 60 gallon a minute pump, so we should be right about 60 gallons a minute. Okay, a couple final shots on this project at Komatsu. They put a nice fence around the water system here to keep it protected because we have a lot of stuff buried. Tanks, bladder tanks, control switches, valves, and so they won't be able to drive one of their awesome wheel loaders over top of it now, I hope. And it's good, we just came back to calibrate to a zone because there was a leak in the irrigation system. That's all fixed. And I think we're good. So let me show you what they did with the solar. Okay, water meter's pumping in there. We've pumped about 30,000 gallons of water through the system, so it's been well tested, and I'm glad they put that water meter in there, and I'll be able to see how much water's been pumped with solar at this site. So they landscaped around our solar pole and made it look a lot better than what we did. Nice planting, nice retaining wall, and it's doing really well. We made a little small adjustment to the float switch to get the maximum amount of water in those tanks every day, and it's doing great. So overall, this was a fun project. We'd never done one like it before, and all the components are working well. So if you need any help pumping water around the world, we'll help you get your system going. It's Engineer 775 signing out. Okay, here we are, irrigating the yard, getting the air out of the system. Heads popped up. Hopefully it's enough coverage. I don't know what they had before with the city water, but this is off of our off-grid solar hybrid water system. So we are irrigating, filling the tanks with our solar, and testing the Franklin 60 gallon a minute pump. So I'm going to recalibrate it, the pump for this pumping here. So it seems to be covering the yard, and all the heads are kind of moving. So I think it's doing what it's supposed to. Yep, out here in the road. So it is pumping. Uh-oh, here comes the boss. And you have any idea how much we're pumping?
It was 15 gallons.
It just shut off.
15 gallons per 10. 15.
Okay, here's the final product. An awesome looking landscape front to the Komatsu Corporation, where they make these awesome wheel loaders. Hurricane Dorian is coming in here blowing the water everywhere. Other than that, it's doing what it's supposed to. Okay, it's Engineer 775 signing out. If you need any cool water projects worked on, let me know.